Hi students, welcome back to JA Finance Park. Today we are talking a little bit about your Budget Plus unit and specifically lesson 2, your life and income minus expenses equals reality. Some really just practical tips as you start moving on to that Budget Plus project and prepare for your JA Finance Park simulation, whether that's on-site or virtual this year. I've got a couple of volunteers with us this morning to share a little bit about their experience. So ladies, would you go ahead and introduce yourselves for us today?
Hi, I'm Kristen Churchill, and I'm from a major accounting and consulting IT audit firm. So I spend most of my time doing general accounting duties and looking at information systems.
Great, and hello everyone. I'm Leslie Orton. I work with a home healthcare company and I'm an HR generalist. So I do everything from getting you on board, recruiting, training, and employee engagement.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in really to the statistics. So students, I'm going to share something with you that you may have heard in class, but let's kind of let this soak in, if you will. More than 75% of Americans do not have enough money saved to pay bills for 6 months should they lose their jobs, according to a recent survey by the financial services company Bankrate. And more than 25% of Americans have no savings in case of an emergency. Really scary numbers to think about, especially in light of some of the challenges of this year in particular. So Kristen, Leslie, what are some possible consequences for people who don't have any savings really?
Yeah, that's a great question, Catherine. So I'm sure young adults, everyone has seen this year, it's so important to have those savings, especially if you're dealing with a layoff or just a job loss in general. You don't know where the job market is at. So being aware of that and understanding what your backup plans are is so important.
Right, going off of what Leslie said, failing to plan is planning to fail, and life is just full of uncertainty. So even if a job is relatively stable, there's so many things that could happen, like injuries to you or a loved one, or just other unforeseen circumstances. So it's always good to build in some cushion into your budget and have some savings built up just in case one of those uncertainties happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We hear unfortunate statistics about people building, credit card debt is just growing, personal loans, which have really high interest rates, just things that cause people to get into kind of a deep hole, and they can get out of them, but it often takes years, potentially even leading to issues like bankruptcy or homelessness or other kind of catastrophic things that we certainly, if, like you said, we can do a little bit of planning to avoid some of those challenges later, it can make a world of difference.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what is something, let's kind of give the students some tangible examples. What's something that you wish you had or could do, or maybe have done, and how can you either start saving for that item or experience, or how, in the past tense, did you start or make that financial decision for that item or experience?
Sure, Catherine. So like most things, it starts out with a budget and actively planning your goals into your budget. So I'm going to talk about something that I've already obtained, which is my CPA license. And this was something that was very difficult to get, just as far as the amount of time, energy, studying, and money that goes into it. And I did get some help from my family and my firm eventually, but there is no guaranteed payoff until you actually complete all the exams and get the tests results back. So some advice that I would give to students is start out with a budget, plan out your income and expenses, your cash inflows and cash outflows, plan for savings and taxes, and also then start to incorporate a small savings allotment for whatever it is you're building up for, and then expand that out over time so you can see where you'll be and when you'll reach your goals. Leslie, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And one of the things that I looked at, I also got recently my human resources certification, is that you need to understand what the return on investment is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hear that everywhere from budgeting to your jobs. Return on investment, what am I doing and what is the outcome? So use this your purchases, your investments as you're growing and as you're changing as a great example of how to drive that return when you're in the workplace and making those big decisions.
Mhm. All right, students, as you get started on this Budget Plus lesson, we want to remember that budgets aren't meant to be really restrictive. They're meant to guide you and hopefully help you to allocate your money accordingly. Paying yourself first, making sure you have that savings, paying for those necessary items, food, shelter, clothing. But then, if you're able to and have some ability or wiggle room to have some discretionary income, you still want to give that a name, still put it into a certain category after you've covered really what those necessities are. And sometimes that can be tricky right out of college if you're paying down some student loan debt. Other stages in life later on, if you've got kids, kids are expensive. And so the ability to have that extra income may vary throughout your lives. But let's hear from you guys today. What are some things that when you've got money and you've paid and put that money aside for yourselves for savings and for your bills, and you've got a little bit extra, what do you like to spend that on? And make sure that you're intentional about it in your spending.
Yeah, exactly. And Catherine, you bring up such a great point that it's going to change throughout your life. So be prepared for that. When I grew up, I was learning how to play violin, and that was such a great hobby of mine. But when I graduated college, the price of going to violin lessons was no joke. So I actually switched over to a different instrument, ukulele, and I learned how to play through YouTube videos. What an easy way for me to keep going with a hobby that I loved, but in a different format.
Mhm.
What about you, Kristen? Any fun things you've been doing?
I really like that, Leslie. Talking about budgets, it kind of reminds me of something an old finance professor used to tell me. He said, without a budget, it's a wonder that you're not accidentally homeless, just because you're kind of guessing what you've got. But now that my budget's all stable, one discretionary item that I have for myself is Kung Fu lessons. So it's not too expensive, and it's something that I've turned out to quite enjoy. So I really, really have enjoyed that.
Mhm. Great. Ladies, again, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing a little bit about your own experiences so the students can hopefully learn from them. Students, as you go forward and finish these remaining lessons before your JA Finance Park simulation, again, whether that's on-site or virtual this year, hopefully this has been helpful as you think about your own budget, setting yourself up for success in the future with your finances. Bye, everyone.